You wrote a book that's called Energy Security.
Yeah.
So how is energy security related to geopolitics?
Well, energy security, I mean, shall I, maybe it might be to give you a few examples of that, of concrete examples of that. I mean, I've already talked a little bit about oil as such, but clearly one of the geopolitical centers of conflict and tension in relation to oil has historically been the Middle East. And this is because the Middle East has the largest amount of reserves of oil in the world. And the large oil importing countries, particularly those which are the big countries in the world, like Britain or the United States or Europe, have always, in a sense, wanted to control that region to ensure that the supply, they can have ready access to the supply of that oil. Now, in the early part of the 20th century, that came through Britain actually annexing and taking over those countries, such as Iraq or the Gulf states. But since World War II, that sort of colonial rule has not been acceptable. But nevertheless, United States has maintained a strong hegemony or power over the region. And even to the present day, there are over 60,000 US troops in the Persian Gulf region. And clearly, multiple wars that have taken place over Iraq, it remains a significant geopolitical center. Oil is one example. Another example I could give in terms of European security is in relation to gas. Europe, Western Europe, Germany, I think Switzerland perhaps, and other countries are dependent upon Russian gas that comes from Siberia. That has been so since the 1970s. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, however, that gas is now transported through Ukraine. And Ukraine clearly has a very difficult relationship with Russia. There is a war that is taking place. Russia's annexed parts of its territory. And so there is incredible sensitivity over that supply of gas. And it's both Europeans worry about whether that gas will be disrupted. And also Russia worries that Ukraine might not permit that gas to be transported through Ukraine, and Ukraine also necessarily feels clearly threatened by that situation. So gas is another example. Another example has been how it fits into geopolitics. There's been the big issue of the present day, in a sense, is the rise of China and how China is becoming a more powerful actor in international politics. And one of the things that really is driving China's engagement with the world is its need for increasing amounts of imports of oil and gas. And that has led China to engage in parts of the world that it hasn't historically been engaged with, in Africa, in Latin America, in Central Asia, all across the world, seeking to gain access to oil and gas that they need, or in particular oil that they need. And that has raised amongst the host countries a concern that China might be a new neo-colonial power. It excited concerns in America, Europe, that China is beginning to seek to gain influence on areas of the world where the US or Europe were traditionally the most important external actors. So that again is changing international politics, is changing geopolitics, is changing the nature of international relations. So energy. I think that's why energy security is so important. Is because energy is a driver of international politics, and whether it leads to greater cooperation or greater conflict. So you have to incorporate energy issues when considering international relations.